there's no question that a ground offensive began a day or two ago. They had been bombing Gaza, and that bombing was intensified again in these last couple of days. So whereas maybe typically killing 50 civilians a day, it's gone up to 150, or even higher, close to 200. So similar to what we saw during the first few days after when the ceasefire was first broken by Israel. So the violence has increased, and there is talk about some sort of U.S. organized or implemented humanitarian relief in southern Gaza. I don't know what to make of it. I think there are some in the Israeli government that are in favor of that, but there are, the true extremists like Smotrich and Ben Gvir. They're opposed to that. Opposed to even giving them a loaf of bread. They want us, to continue the starvation policy. Now, from what I understand, is even if this goes ahead and there is some sort of U.S. NGO or maybe a U.S. Army-run distribution effort in southern Gaza, it's going to fall far short of what's needed. It will help to save some lives. It will slow down the starvation, but it's not going to stop it. Again, the agency that is really best positioned, that has the experience, has the that really has the capacity to do this is UNRWA. It is the United Nations agency that had been doing it in the past, but the Israelis have really turned on the UN in general. We know that they've actually been targeting UN personnel and killing them and destroying their facilities, and they just want UNRWA out of there entirely, and then to bring in their friends, the Americans, who maybe can help them with the ethnic cleansing. And I think that's basically the idea. We'll have it in this certain area within southern Gaza, so we can just push them out of northern Gaza. We can crowd them into a small part of southern Gaza. And then in preparation for, pushing them out, there are rumors that maybe 1 million Palestinians can be sent to Libya. I don't know if there's anything to that, but there's obviously some kind of effort to find a country that could receive the Palestinians.
Do you think that will happen? The state of Libya right now, I know it's been chaotic ever since Gaddafi, but would Libya allow 1 million Palestinians in?
Well, again, I don't think I haven't been following events there very closely, but I believe that there's a state of civil war. It's not that there is one government in control of all the territory. There is a government that controls part of the territory and is supported by the West, and the West has essentially offered them billions of dollars. I think billions of dollars that they had frozen, as the West often does. They will release these to you, if you take on these Palestinians. And I don't know. I don't know. One thing, I'll make a comment that I hope is not taken the wrong way. But a lot of people say this is a horrible thing, the idea that, we could relocate the Palestinians. And I agree, this is just ethnic cleansing. This is wrong. This is their land. They should be able to live there in peace. So I support them. But if you think this is horrible, the idea of relocating, you should also be doing whatever you can, if you're a government, to stop the genocide. Because it's just sort of, what am I trying to say? It's just that if you say that, okay, I'm opposed to the relocation, but I'm not opposed to the genocide, then in a way you're in favor of genocide. You're not letting them go, but you're going to let the Israelis kill them all, starve them to death. And that's what you see, like the policy of many governments, both within the region and in the West. It's like, they've condemned outright this idea of relocation. Okay, yeah, but you haven't actually condemned the genocide, and you continue to support it. So what are you actually in favor of? This would be a true crime if you relocated, but it would be better than killing them all.
Right. Yeah. I know there's just, people, I think the problem is so many people are getting so emotionally invested in this. They want people to fight Israel, but
Yeah.
at the suffering of a population that's 50% children. Like this isn't okay. They're all dying. It's just crazy that it's come to this, that we can't have any changes within our government. We are completely enabling this. The United States is sending all these bombs every day to Israel to enact this genocide. We clearly have leverage. We could tell them to open up the gates right away. I mean, we released that dual citizen IDF soldier Eden Alexander, and from my understanding, what I hear is that the agreement that Witkoff made was that he promised that, okay, you let him go, and then we're going to let aid into Gaza, or we'll push for a ceasefire, something like this. There's supposed to be something out of it, but clearly we broke it immediately. Nothing has changed. And I'm seeing more and more people. I just saw this morning on X that there's a lot of people holding up signs saying, I support a military intervention to stop the Gaza genocide. That people are at this point. They want somebody to come in and fight. And but I agree totally. Like, I just don't want to see any more children starving to death. I don't want to see children being blown apart. It needs to stop. And it's just so crazy that they're trapped. It's literally shooting fish in a barrel. This is what it is. You don't let these people out. Don't let them go. Don't give them any food. So if they do relocate, they survive. What would happen? Would the war wouldn't stop, right? Like, if they do, first of all, I don't even know if it's possible. How would you move out 1 million people? And then who would be remaining? Like, would there just be Hamas fighters that stay behind, and you removed everybody else that voluntarily was there, and then they say, okay, we're gonna, even if they do that, I don't think it would be that easy for the IDF. They've struggled taking territory in Gaza already. They kill a ton of civilians, but Hamas is still there. And from my understanding, Hamas has actually grown in strength, which is not surprising. If you killed my whole family, massacred my kids, well, guess what, buddy? I'm going to be spending the rest of my life, trying to get back at you for that. That is a very strong motivator for Hamas. So yeah, what do you think would happen if they moved out, if they agreed and, save these kids, get them out? All right, let's do that. And then what happens?
Yeah, well, I think then that it's hard to say that the Israelis would remove all restraints, because I think they've done that already. You would just see a continuation of the war. And, in the end, let's be honest, I, in so many ways, admire Hamas. They've shown tremendous courage and skill. They're just greatly outmatched in terms of firepower. And yet they have made this very, very difficult for the Israelis. So I admire them. I admire their struggle, and but I don't see how they can win. It's just that it's just a tiny sliver of land. You can look at that map in the back, and it's already smaller than that. The Israelis have already taken control of something, at least half of Gaza. It was already very small to begin with. And, even with the tunnels, eventually the Israelis, could have control over have Gaza entirely encircled. They will, if nothing else, just starve them out at some point. If they can't kill them, with guns and bombs, they can just kill them through starvation. And I don't see how you can, unless the world intervenes in some way. That's what's going to happen. It's just not a fair fight. And it's the only thing that we can hope for. But we pointed to certain awakening, within mainstream media, but we got a long ways to go. It's just I'm afraid it may be too little, too late.
Do you think the world will intervene?
It has to be the U.S. I don't think. Well, the other possibility again is Egypt or Turkey, but these are countries run by really very corrupt governments that are going to do whatever they can to avoid getting entangled in a war there. But yeah, I can see a revolution happening in those countries. I mean, I don't see it happening in Turkey. I think there's a potential, at least, that it could happen, a coup. in Egypt. Egypt is a very poor country, but there's 100 million people, and a lot of them are very, very angry, deeply upset about what's going on. The greatest hope, again, is just that there could be a change of policy in the U.S., but I don't see it. The only kind of black swan event that could potentially take place would be Trump could really turn on Israel, but I'm not going to put any hope in that. I'm just not. I think it would be a mistake. It's not impossible, but there's just no reason to really hope that that's going to happen. Again, the friction, I think, between Trump and Netanyahu is for real, but it's still a long ways from spilling over to a real, break in the U.S.-Israel relationship. That still seems very, very unlikely.
Are you surprised that we've let it go this far, get this long? Does it amaze you that this is happening and where everybody's letting it happen?
Well, I guess at this point, I've just gotten used to it. But I think you're right. If we just kind of turned the tapes back to before October 7th and you said, well, if these things happened, I would say, oh, well, clearly, maybe not the U.S. government, but at least these European governments would come down hard, impose economic sanctions on Israel, at least that. And the degree to which, these governments are still making excuses for Israel, still complicit, still supporting them, it does surprise me. It is shocking. It really is.
Yeah, when I step back and take a look at it, it is mind blowing that this is happening. It's continuing to happen. That for 20 months we've been bombing a civilian population, a captive civilian population, with 50% of the population being children. We've been seeing footage of children being blown apart for over a year and a half now. And now we have this deliberate starvation campaign that is being inflicted upon these people. And the whole world is upset about it. All the people are upset, but nobody's doing anything. And it really surprises me. It really makes me lose some faith in humanity. Mm-hmm. And you just think about how we are, especially if you look at the United States, how we've always been going on these crusades over the past 30 years, intervening around the world as this force of righteousness and morality. And we got to insert ourselves into every conflict militarily, economically, politically, soft power, whatever we do, we're always fiddling in. We're doing it because we're the moral power, the world's policemen. We're going to do the right thing. And then you have an actual genocide that's being broadcast, that's been going on. We're getting, we're going to hit 2 years before you know it of this going on. And in an actual starvation campaign where you see emaciated children, people dying, kids having seizures because they don't have nourishment, just some of the most horrific things that you can imagine being shown to the whole world. And not only are we not doing anything about it, we are part of it. And that is just so crazy. It's so damning. I think not only has Israel destroyed itself from this heinous act, so has the whole Western world. And I think this has been the most damning thing for Western hegemony, Western power. And I think so many people, even within the West, are saying, well, maybe it's time. Western hegemony was terrible. If this is our moral hill right here, maybe we don't deserve to be a hegemon at all. And I hope more and more people are coming to that recognition.
Well, I think more and more are. I think there's no question about it. I think you put it very well. I really don't have anything to add to what you just said.
Okay, well, I guess we can end it there. It's just hard to believe. It's just really hard for me to believe that this is happening. And the world is just watching it. It's really crazy. I think it's a moral reckoning, and I think you put it very well the other day that a lot of people know that there is something deeply wrong with what's happening. It's hard to confront it, but it's being put in their face so much that people are, and they're trying to justify the death of these children, the starvation. It's not something that I think most people can do. So hopefully we can see a change in the hearts and minds of political leaders, or they get voted out of office. We'll see. Okay, once again, thoughts and prayers to the people of Gaza. Hope this nightmare ends for them.